Welcome to the Group Dentistry Now Show, the voice of the DSO industry. Kim Larson and Bill Newman talk to industry leaders about their challenges, successes, and the future of group dentistry. Visit groupdentistrynow.com for more DSO analysis, news, and events. Looking for a job or have a job to fill? Visit joindso.com. We hope you enjoy today's show.
Welcome, everyone, to the Group Dentistry Now Show. I'm Bill Newman, and as always, we appreciate you watching us or listening in. We have a new guest to the podcast today with a company we've had on a couple of times, but new to RecallMax, but not new to the DSO industry for sure. We have Jeff Bertsch. He's the Vice President of Special Markets at RecallMax. Jeff, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I mentioned it briefly that Jeff has been in the DSO industry for quite a while. He has over a decade of experience and has a lot of experience on the operations side of things, working for various DSOs. So, Jeff, maybe talk a little bit about, your past experience working, in operations and for some of these different DSOs, and then what brought you to RecallMax.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I started in the dentistry world just shy of almost 13 years ago. I started with Pacific Dental Services. I was an operations manager there. Worked my way up to a regional manager. Then I, was there just a shy of 6.5, 7 years. And then I moved to DentalOne Partners. I was there for roughly a year. I was director of affiliation and integration. I oversaw Arizona, Colorado. And then I moved to Dental Care Alliance. I was their director of affiliations and integration. I spent a couple of years with Spear Education as a practice consultant. And then I really missed being back in the practices. So I moved over to Smile Design Dentistry here in Tampa, Florida. I was there for about 2 years as a regional manager. And then my most recent was with Parkview Dental Partners as director of operations. I really moved into the RecallMax just shy of a month ago. I just really loved their platform. I loved how engaged it is from a front desk perspective. I mean, to experience being an office manager and having to run lists and things like that, just, RecallMax really highlights that, makes it super seamless for your front desk and things like that. So that's what really attracted me to the position. And yeah.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, that's it's great that you've had that, hands-on experience and probably ran through quite a few challenges as an office manager and a regional and in those various operations roles. Maybe let's talk a little bit about your role at RecallMax, and then a little bit about the organization, and then we can dig into the product itself and some of the the latest offerings that RecallMax has.
Absolutely. Yeah, so my role is Vice President of Special Markets, basically in charge of North America, from Canada to U.S., but really mostly focused in the United States. We've really got a good tie of a lot of practice, a lot of corporations in the Canadian market. So I was brought on to, obviously, with my experience in the operations side of things, just to, I think for me, which is great, is that I have the operational experience, right? So I understand how the platform and how RecallMax can really elevate practices in the DSO space.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is great that you're you're able to again bring your experience, and I'm sure I know RecallMax has had people in special markets role before. RecallMax is not new to DSOs, right. So the platform works well whether you have one location or you have multiple locations. So RecallMax, talk about the product itself. What does the offering do? I mean, obviously it's recall, but it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I mean, recall is, obviously I would say a small percentage of what RecallMax actually offers, right? I think, just been with the company a month now, obviously learning a lot about the software. But I think what I like about it is, we sync to your location. It's a platform that sits on the outside of your software, right? Where your traditional retention-based products are web-based, right? So you have to toggle between different applications, where we sit right on side, right? There's a little toolbar called Max, and he highlights and organizes and syncs automatically with your software, which I can't understand what I guess from my perspective is that it's just really seamless, and it makes, again, you don't even have to have dental experience to be able to use RecallMax, right? Is that we highlighted that all these patients are on the side in this little toolbar. They're grouped by specific needs of the practices, from unscheduled treatment to patients that either missed or canceled an appointment to, the confirmation section, which really highlights, your upcoming schedule for the next 3 weeks and tells you, hey, here's your opportunities. Here's what patients haven't confirmed. So it really gives you a specific direction on how to manage their front desk. I think the one thing, being in the DSO space for so long is that we always sort of get that notion of like, we want new patients. And don't get me wrong, that's fantastic. But ultimately, right, we have thousands of patients that are sitting in our practices that don't get reached out to. We have to pull a list. You have to go print it out. You don't know who's contacted that patient. You got to go back to the PM. Well, Max does all that for you, and it syncs automatically with your software.
So the type of recall it's doing, is it doing email, texting? Is it helping kind of connect the office manager or remind the office manager to actually make the phone call? What does that look like? Yeah.
So to my understanding, roughly 80 to 90% of the patients don't really use automation, right? So aside from just having lists and things like that, there's an automated feature which will send obviously confirmation reminders, recall reminders, unscheduled treatment, obviously if you need to fill the doctor's schedule. So there's more than just, having a list. It's really tailored towards how do I drive patients back into my practice.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. There are a lot of different recall offerings out there, different platforms. You maybe discuss, and you touched on it earlier, that recalls the tiny piece of what RecallMax does, but maybe compare RecallMax to some of the other products on the market.
Yeah, and I'm just obviously again pretty familiar with some of the other ones, but in my past experiences, we've used some softwares. What I liked about really the main difference between RecallMax and any of the other softwares, it sits right on the front desk screen. Right, it's there. It's not like I've got to toggle to a website to go back to send a patient a text message or a recall reminder. It's literally sits right on top of their software. Super simple to use. You can click it to hide it. You can bring it back. I mean, it's really seamless, and it's, I guess, giving them direction versus having to go, okay, what list do I pull today to fill these patients for tomorrow?
Gotcha. How about? You mentioned something earlier, about really not even needing to be from dental to understand how to use RecallMax. And I think that's become more, certainly it's more common than it has been, where people are coming from outside the industry to fill different roles, office manager roles. Talk about a little bit about the ease of use, and then also maybe like onboarding. So if a practice or a group decides that they're, going to use RecallMax, what kind of support do you and your team offer somebody that's new to the platform? Okay.
Yeah. So when you think about ease of use, right, is that with it sitting there virtually, right, on side of your software, anyone with any experience, and I highlight that, I kind of highlight that, right, is that I didn't start in dentistry. I didn't grow up in being a dental assistant in a practice. I came from retail. I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car for just shy of 8 years. So I knew nothing about dentistry. So it's like, I tried to, get my RM, my regional managers and things to understand, we always want to hire somebody that has dental experience. So that's great, but not everybody has dental experience. So what I liked about RecallMax is that, you don't have to know, what list to pull. You can go in a really simple format of a couple clicks, and I'm sending, multiple messages to multiple patients to fill an opportunity. So it's really seamless. And I can't remember the last question you asked me. Apologize.
Well, I was just talking about the onboarding process. So, once somebody signs up, what kind of education and training do you really provide? Because there is, I'm sure, even if it's relatively easy to use, there is a learning curve with everything, and you want to make sure that it's implemented and that just like one of your positions, integrated right into the different practices.
Yeah, I'm obviously just getting to know a lot about the software, but what I can tell you so far is that, the support system that we have. If someone wants to sign up, I mean, it's all hands on deck. Like everybody from the team is going to help support where needed. The learning curve, the Recall has an academy, right, where there's videos, training videos. But I think most importantly is once you're integrated, we set up training sessions for the team members. So we walk through on exactly how to use RecallMax. So it's, obviously, again, we want to make sure that people are using the software, right? If someone's investing in a product or a platform, we want to make sure that the team members are using it and are engaged in it, right? So that's really what we try to make it as easy as possible and seamless. So it's, easy to use, and it's not a burden like having to go to a web-based platform, toggle between pages, etc. Because not everybody has multiple monitors in their offices. So if you got one office or one monitor, you're having to use back and forth. So it's really seamless, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it sure does. What's your experience? I know you've been with RecallMax about a month now, but you've worked at these different DSOs, have a lot of experience there. What traditionally are DSOs using as a platform, or I'm not necessarily asking for the name of a particular product, but what traditionally have you seen as far as how a group or a DSO handles recall? What are they doing and how are they handling it? And then maybe touch on how RecallMax can make that a little bit more efficient or easier.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, this is really the first software that, I shouldn't say first one, second software. The first one we had was really more from a KPI perspective. Some of the front offices used it for some messaging, and then some would use the internal software. It was obviously very cumbersome. But, in previous worlds, it's the traditional style. You print a list, you start making phone calls, or you've got your quick fill list or whatever software list you have. It's really traditional. You're picking up the phone call and you're trying to get patients on the schedule. I think that's where RecallMax really has done well with, right? Is that I can go in, just specific. Let's say tomorrow a hygiene appointment cancels at 8:00. It's now 1:30. I can go in and select tomorrow at 8:30. I can select 15, 20 patients that have registered with us and said, "Hey, I love Fridays at 8:00 in the morning." I can go in, quickly select those 15 patients, send them all a text message, and hopefully within an hour or half an hour, you've got that appointment filled. Where our traditional style, you're calling patients till 7, 8:00 at night to try to fill your hygiene schedule. So, same thing with the doctors. It does similar things like that for the doctor schedule as well. So,
well, that's great. Any other results you can point to as far as some a DSO or a group integrating RecallMax, and whether they're going from the traditional method, which is what you're talking about, or maybe from something that's more of a competing product? Talk a little bit about the results that you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to give like specific results because again, it comes down to a couple things, right? Is how well they actually use it, and if they are using it, you're going to see a really good ROI. I don't want to throw out a number because I don't know that specifically, but it's anywhere from 6 to 10% ROI on just having RecallMax, right? So I think in my mind, what I've learned so far is that the software just makes things so seamless. And from what I've seen and what I've used in previous world, it's just a great product. It's very patient specific. It's very front desk specific, and there's also dashboards and things that we have along the line that will obviously, as an executive in the company, if you want to see how your front desk is working and if they're all aligned and they're doing the same thing, we give you a scorecard dashboard that really highlights that. So it's really cool.
Well, it sounds like there's an ease of use factor. So if you have people that maybe aren't familiar with the office manager role, or they're coming from outside of dental, you also have the academy from an educational perspective, so people can get ramped up. And you and your team obviously support as somebody is onboarded and it's integrated into the practice or the practices. Talk to me about the RecallMax network analysis and what that is, and how maybe a listener can, or somebody watching this can get one of these analysis to see if RecallMax would make sense for them.
Got it. Yeah. So our network analysis is, what I would call it is like, traditional consultant coming in and doing a chart audit. We can link it. We basically sync up to each location. Within 48 to 72 hours, we'll have a report that will highlight a bunch of different opportunities in the practice, from hygiene to doctor to your active patient base. Like we want people to really understand, that your active patient base is, that's where the growth is at, right? Is how well we're utilizing the patients that are in our network. So yeah, they can go to they can go to the website, or they can also on my email, I can share with you a link that they can schedule a booking. They can call me specifically. They can email me. Those are usually the easiest ways to reach out. My email is jeff.bertsch@recallmax.com.
Yeah, it's jeff.bertsch@recallmax.com for people that are just listening. We'll drop that email address in the show notes, and then we'll also. Is there a link somewhere on your website where they can sign up for that network analysis as well, or is best way is to do that is to reach out and email you?
I believe so. Yes, there's a up on the top address bar when you're on the main page, it'll say book a demo. Okay. You can do that. Then that'll be.
We'll link to that. We'll link to that as well. Directly link to that book a demo as well. Well, thanks, Jeff. We appreciate this. Great to have you on the other side of the industry now. Working on the vendor side and bringing your 13 years of experience in the DSO space, working in various operation roles. I think it's important that you now represent. You have an understanding when you're talking to the customers, kind of going through the same challenges that you went through when you were working at these various groups.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the things Jeff and I, who's our CEO, talk about all the time, right? Is that it's for someone that's been in the operations world for so long, and to have, just to be able to sit and talk with people about, look, I've been in your shoes. I understand the challenges of running a front office and getting, 20 or 100 locations all rolling in the same direction. It's challenging. And that's what's really cool about RecallMax, is that we show you that. We highlight all those areas for you. So yeah, I'm excited. It's so far, it's been a great journey, and glad I joined RecallMax. So.
Well, great. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for listening in to the Group Dentistry Now show today. We appreciate it. Again, if you want to find out more, we'll drop the link in the show notes so you can sign up for a demo. You can go to recallmax.com, or you can email Jeff at jeff.bertsch, which is BERTSCH @recallmax.com. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
The Group Dentistry Now show has listeners across North and South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. If you like our show, subscribe today, and please tell your colleagues about us.